Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, Senator strikes back. Also, the V-Team takes a look at a state lottery. And ALGOP Chairwoman Terry Lathan asks Mike Hubbard to step aside.
I love that woman. I love her more than sharks love blood.
All this and much, much more coming up next on The V.
The Voice of Alabama Politics, with your host, Bill Brett. Now, the #1 political show in Alabama, The V.
Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by the V-Team. Welcome all.
Good morning. Good to be with y'all.
Roll Tide, we have to compliment the championship team for their big win on Monday night.
16 in 2016.
Good for the state of Alabama.
Heck, yeah.
Hey, Auburn did great in the Birmingham Bowl too, okay?
Yeah.
They did. They did.
We're proud of all our football teams. We do football better than anybody, that's
Yes,
for sure.
we do.
Over the past several weeks, we have reported on Senator Phil Williams. He started out as a senator with no consulting or professional contracts. By his 2014 Statement of Economic Interest, he had 43 clients. He turned those over to the Ethics Commission. He also set out a press release that just basically was scathing towards me and Susan and the Alabama Political Reporter. We are now able to report from a high-level government official that a letter has been sent to the Ethics Commission. Senator Phil Williams is under criminal investigation by the state of Alabama. Beth, he protested too much.
He did, and you know, my first thought was, if this isn't true, file a defamation suit. But the fact is, truth is an absolute defense to defamation, and he's an attorney. I'm just a 1L. So if I know that, I know he knows it, which explains why, you know, if he weren't under investigation, he would have filed some sort of suit to answer it.
Well, he may sue us yet, but I don't think that's going to be
I
good.
thought it was very interesting that he really did come after y'all. And you know, of course, this was a very busy week at the State House with budget hearings going on and everything else. And I did see him there, and I was very saddened to learn that there is a letter that has been sent to him. And of course, I know that came out at the end of the week. And it's just unfortunate because to me, as a Republican, you know, I would like for our Republican members to be at a different, higher level than fashion, how they would say the Democrats used to do.
Well, and an investigation, you know, is not an indictment.
No, you're innocent to proven guilty.
Right. I mean, of course, used to be in the old days, an investigation, you know, that was pretty much the end of your career. Now you can get indicted and still sit in the speaker's chair.
Get elected in the speaker's chair.
But what do you think about this, Susan? I mean, you know, we get attacked all the time.
We do, and anybody who follows us for any amount of time knows we do not make a statement unless we have the facts to back it up. And that's the case here. We had the facts. We know what we're talking about. Now we're finally being vindicated that we were telling the truth. And like Claire, I hate for anybody to get investigated. It makes the state look bad. I mean, it's bad enough that we've got Hubbard with 23 felony indictments against him. Now we've got another senator being investigated. This is just awful.
Well, on top of that, you know, he is this kind of squeaky clean military Christian. I mean, he epitomizes of what I would call a far-right conservative Republican senator, and for this to happen is just a little astonishing to me.
Well, it is, but some of these guys think they're totally bulletproof. And Beth, I'm telling you, law enforcement is going to be so far up their backsides when they burp, they're going to taste brill cream. You probably don't know what brill cream is.
Yeah, I have no idea what brill cream is.
It's the stuff that police officers used to put on their hair.
Oh, my daddy's a police officer, but he doesn't have much hair, so I don't think that's it.
Speaking of hair, Jim McClendon came out this week and sponsored a lottery bill. It's got to be the shortest lottery bill in the history of any state, Claire. It's amazing, 31 words, right?
Well, it's like he's just doing what it takes to get the job done. It's interesting, you know, and matter of fact, I saw him this week up at the State House the afternoon afterwards at budget hearings, and he said, well, hopefully we'll get it passed, and he goes, particularly if somebody from Alabama would win the Powerball, but as we saw, it was somebody from Tennessee, Florida, and California. It was a three-way split. So I was hoping that somebody from Alabama would win because that would probably encourage people more to go vote for this.
But, I mean, look at all the people that were turning up in Georgia to get a piece of the action. And there was a gentleman on Jack and Barron's show this week saying he saw like 50 cars in the line, or it was 120 cars in the line, and most of them were Alabama tags.
Well, one of those little places had a sign up that said, "Thank you, Alabama, for making us rich." I mean,
true.
This has been around forever. The people want to vote.
They do. But, you know, I have a problem with McClendon's bill in that it's kind of just a blank check. And I don't know, especially with the Speaker, with Senator Williams, that I don't know that we can trust a blank check saying, let's have a lottery without some provisions in it on who gets to control it, who gets to regulate it, who gets to do those things. And I guess that's the big government liberal in me coming out.
I'm on the other side, but I agree with you. You know, they need to set up an Alabama lottery corporation like they've done in Georgia and other places like that. You have to
have some parameters.
Right, and just like if you were to have the casino game and the same thing, you need to set up a gambling commission and all like that. It absolutely needs to be done, because if it doesn't, that opens the door for more corruption.
It does, and this is an open-end bill. This doesn't even say where the funding's going. Is it going to the ETF? Is it going to the general fund? Basically, it's just letting the people vote to say, to give the power to the legislature. I don't know that I'm real comfortable that open-ended.
Well, then you could, but what happens if they will need to pass enabling legislation, which goes in and does all the devils in the detail and that sort of thing. But this is just a short vote, and then you have an enabling legislation.
And I think the idea here, as I understood it from Senator McClendon, is that they don't want to have to pass a constitutional amendment every time they need to tinker with this thing. And so the idea was get a clean bill that everybody could agree, hey, we either do or do not want a lottery. Just get that off the table, then come back. But I'm with everybody else, I guess. You know, do we really trust them to get it right?
And I want to know where the money goes before I vote on it.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. I want to know where we're setting this lottery up to go, because that'll affect my vote.
You know,
But it needs to go to the general fund or education, and then they maybe should put in there, okay, depending on whether you're in the hole or not that year, it rotates or it goes 50-50. It just depends on what the need of the state is during that time.
My concern is that they're going to pass it. People are going to vote thinking it's education, and that's not what it's going to be. And then education's not going to get anything out. At best, give them a split, like you said.
I don't see higher education laying down and not getting some of that money. That's just not going to happen.
Okay, I say 50-50 split.
Yeah. I like the 50-50 split. I don't have a
It's
problem with
fair.
that at all.
It's fair.
You know, we got another disturbing email this week. The general counsel for the Department of Labor sent an email to other attorneys within the state saying the state has not paid for ALGOP for the last several months because the STARS program. He also is worried about they're coming after him, his finances coming after him. And Beth, you can't live without ALGOP as a lawyer.
I don't understand how the justice system functions without ALGOP, and I think this all kind of circles back to Judge Moore and him having to beg and borrow and steal to get the justice system working. ALGOP's a non-negotiable expense for the state at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and speaking of that, like I mentioned budget hearings, I sat there and listened to Judge Roy Moore and his lieutenants and the people that work up there. I mean, you know, whether somebody likes him or not, that's irrelevant. You need to support the justice system. They need to be open, because that impacts every citizen of this state. And it's ridiculous. It's egregious that they're not funding the court system.
Well,
in my
it is,
opinion.
but without ALFILE, though, you have to serve every single court document on every single party. It's ridiculous. You can't do that.
And apparently what they're doing is asking any agency that's using ALGOP to justify why they need it.
I mean, labor has hundreds of lawsuits out there at any given time.
Sure,
Exactly.
and working comps, all
Yeah,
that.
it's crazy.
But instead of just addressing the fact that they need to pay it, they're like, well, why do you need it?
All right, right. Well, we're going to have to leave it right there. You're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
The V is sponsored by Spot On Strategies Group.
Sadly, this happens too often in families with autistic children.
First nightmare, their child wanders off, disappears, and is nowhere to be found.
Where her body was found just a couple hours ago.
An autistic boy wanders away from home and dies.
Welcome back to the V, the voice of Alabama politics. We're joined today by Executive Committee members Billy McFarland and Jonathan Barbee. Welcome.
Good morning.
This past week, the ALGOP, the Republican Party Steering Committee, passed a resolution saying that Speaker Mike Hubbard should suspend his leadership as Speaker until after his trial for 23 felony charges is settled. Billy, you have been a member of the Executive Committee for a long time. This was a Steering Committee decision. How did all this come about, to your knowledge?
Thank you, Bill, and I have been honored to represent Tuscaloosa County and more recently Perry County on the committee. It came to my knowledge late on Friday evening that the chairwoman had called for a special conference call among the Steering Committee, not the Executive Committee, and that the call was going to concern a private resolution asking the Speaker to step down, which would then, if passed, be delivered in private to the Speaker.
Jonathan, it is my understanding from Terry Lathan's press release that Speaker Hubbard was invited to come and sit with the Steering Committee and listen to what they had to say, and they would hear what he had to say. What happened?
Well, from my understanding and speaking with members of the Steering Committee and Chairwoman Lathan, that he did not return a phone call and that he did not acknowledge the fact that this was coming. And in my knowledge, this has been discussed since the last State Executive Committee meeting in August, where all 300, 400 members were there. And I talked to dozens of people about this, and it was a mixed party. It still is a mixed party, but the one thing that everybody agrees on is that this is embarrassing. Whether he remains as the Speaker and goes through a trial, or whether he steps down, it's going to be embarrassing. So we're all really stuck right now in a situation that we've been put in because of this indictment. And, you know, the Speaker's office and his attorneys, they had to have known that this was coming and somehow prepared for it. And you would think that he would want to show up to the Steering Committee and plead his case.
Well, you would think so, but I mean, you know, in my opinion, the Speaker has denied, delayed, and deflected the entire time. Billy, you've been around politics a long, long time. Do you think that, where do you think this goes next? I mean, how do you think this plays out?
Well, on the one hand, I think it's a positive thing that after 137 years of Democrat control of Alabama, that we are now the supermajority party as a Republican Party. And because of that, we, of course, are going to have internal disagreements and discord. Having said that, I think that we must remember that the Speaker was instrumental in that ending that 137-year rule through his role of the 2010 elections. And out of respect and courtesy to him, and also out of recognition of one of the hallmarks of American jurisprudence, which is the presumption of innocence until guilt, it really did nothing to pass this resolution in the dead of night through a Steering Committee, which probably, in my opinion, would not pass the full Executive Committee if polled at this time.
How would you have done it, or would you just not have done it at all?
I would probably not have done it at all, but if I did do it, I think since we have a Steering Committee that's going to be held just in a few weeks in Mobile, I think it would be much more appropriate to allow all 300 or 400 members vote on a resolution that really calls on a long-time leader of the party and someone whom I don't know very well at all, but I certainly have respected his hard work over the years, to be given an up or down vote.
Right. You know, there is no precedent that I know of in any other state where the Speaker has stayed under indictment. Certainly, if you are in the House of Representatives of the U.S. Congress, the minute you are indicted, you have to step down from your leadership position. Do you think that and I know the party doesn't have say on these kind of things, but Jonathan, do you think it's time that we have some mechanism for that, where it's just like, look, okay, but this is not a political witch hunt, you know, but that's what's been said.
Well, I tell you, Billy and I have been friends for a long time, and I agree with him in some fashion, but I disagree with him in others, and I'll tell you why. After seeing what has happened with the court proceedings over the last 6 months, and you know my thing on that, I believe it's been a circus. It's been embarrassing to the party, and I think with him coming into this next session to sit as a Speaker and then having to go through a trial at the same time, it is bad for our state. It is bad for the people. And in these other states, those gentlemen have stepped down from the speakership. I'm not saying resign from your House seat. Step down from the leadership position, focus on your family, focus on your trial, and I am a true believer in innocent until proven guilty. You know, and even when you read the facts, you read them and you're like, wow, you know, that's some pretty damning information, but at the same time, innocent until proven guilty, so take that time to focus on your trial. But what I have to say about this now, Bill, is this needed to happen because someone needed to step in and say, look, we've got to focus on state business. We got, you know, 1 million, 2 million people in the state that live here that need to focus on stuff. We've got a House of Representatives that's got to get some business done. And personally, I'll say this at the camera mic, I think it's time that you step down and do it honorably and focus on your family and focus on your trial.
Well, Billy, any other thoughts on that before I want to switch quickly to another subject?
Yes, sir. I would just say, you know, there have been plenty of lawmakers on all sides of the political aisle in recent history in Alabama, some of whom had major committee chairmanships and others. I know that Senator Harry Ann Smith comes to mind, who was indicted and later became fully exonerated and acquitted. And I think we can all agree she is a good person. And I simply think that we should extend that same courtesy to the Speaker as innocent until proven guilty. But also, I think that as a party, we need to disagree without being disagreeable.
Well, and I certainly agree with that. What we got about 1 minute. I want to talk about some things that the party in general has in mind. I mean, obviously the Republican Party is going to be the major party in Alabama for a long time, maybe generations. In your thinking, Billy, where do you see it going next? The party in general. What do you see the focus being?
I believe the future is bright. We now have the great majority of counties that are solidly Republican. We do, in the area of where I work, in Alabama's Black Belt region, we do have a long way to go, and we need to sell ourselves effectively for the truth, which is we are the party of opportunity and hope. And that doesn't matter if you're black or white. It doesn't matter your ethnicity or race. We offer people who want to start small businesses, entrepreneurs, small business owners, lower taxes, smaller government, and a chance to get ahead.
Well, thank you for being our guest today. Thank you, Jonathan, as always. You're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back with more news and analysis. Welcome back to The V, the voice of Alabama politics. As was just discussed in the last segment, Terry Lathan, the chairman of the ALGOP and the steering committee, had a split vote, but the majority voted to ask Speaker Mike Hubbard to step down or suspend his speakership until after his. Yeah, no kidding. I mean, what do you think? You've been on the steering committee. Mother was on it forever.
Yeah, and I think Jonathan and Billy McFarland did a great job. They're both on there, and they're both young members, and it's embarrassing. And I think, and I, of course, have spoken with Chairman Latham about this, you know, over the years or this past fall during the football season, because we're both all fans. Yeah. But in any event, that's the right thing, and that's what should have been done, because once again, I will say this for the record and the viewers, in South Carolina, North Carolina, New York, and Indiana, when their speakers and their number 2 person were indicted, they stepped down immediately for the betterment of the party and for the structure of government to run efficiently.
But instead, Hubbard is trying to call this sour grapes from last session because she wanted to shut down the government instead of raise taxes, and he did the right thing. So this is just her pushing back.
How
weak is that?
Get by with raising taxes and saying it was a good thing, Beth?
I don't know. The attack ads are writing themselves on that one, but the speakers give us a lot of room to work with.
Yeah, he does. He does. Well, I applaud Terry Lathan and the steering committee for having the guts to put it to a vote. It could not have been easy. We have learned from an inside source inside the Hubbard camp that they are in chaos. And the reason they are in chaos is because they didn't really see Mark White bailing on him like he did. And now they have Lance Bell and Blake Oliver, both nice young guys, but no match for Matt Hart. Susan, how does this play out?
Well, I think that, and we discussed all the different scenarios that everybody thought, this was a setup, this was a conspiracy, they're going to do this. And I think it really just comes down to Hubbard ran out of money.
Yeah.
That's really what it looks like it's beginning, because if nothing else, if you look at the letter that he signed, that was on the 27th of December, and then Mark White didn't close the case or ask for withdrawal until the 31st. So it looks like there was a time frame in there for him to gather the money. He just couldn't get it done. And now without the lead dog, these other two guys, they just don't have the experience to go against somebody like Matt Hart.
Well, I mean, traditionally they think that the state agencies and the government traditionally don't have the best lawyers, and that you can get the best counsel outside versus inside state government or the U.S. Attorney's Office. But, let's face it, both these guys have been on the case. Lance Bell's been on the case for 2 years.
Yes,
so
he
for him
has.
to say he didn't know enough about it, then maybe he's not been following his job for the last 2 years, and the other guy as well.
I think some of these guys may have been just laying back and waiting for White to do all the work and just weren't really keeping up. Nobody had any idea, I don't think, that White was going to get out.
Well, I mean, Beth, this is just, the judge could go through with the case if he wanted to. He's got one lawyer and a whole law firm behind him, but
I think that the judge is going to end up delaying the case again.
Yeah.
That's what my gut's telling me, because at this point it's an error for appeal. It gives the speaker a chance to say, I wasn't given a fair trial, my attorney quit, all of these things happened, and I need a chance to have a fair trial. And so I think that Judge Walker's done everything he can to try to dot his I's, cross his T's, make sure that he hasn't done anything wrong, and I think he gives him the extension.
Well, that's just unfortunate, because quite
is.
frankly, if he gets an extension, it's liable to be another year.
But wait a minute, when he set the first court date, we were sitting in the courtroom when he set the March date. That day they wanted to push it to June, and he said, no, that's too long. He said that then. I don't think he's going to give them that much of an extension.
Well, and the problem is when you have a judge like that who handles civil cases, criminal cases, all that, he's got a packed docket, right? I mean, he can't just carve out 3 weeks.
Right, we can't just bump it to next week.
Yeah, so that's where we run into problems. But, we're thinking maybe June, but that's over 2 years. And this guy is going to go through a 5th legislative session since he was indicted. What's your word, Claire?
Egregious.
Yeah, no kidding.
This is like a home run for him, because here he's going, I get some more free time.
And he's sitting back collecting a state paycheck while he does it.
And what kind of chaos is the state going to be subject to while he's down there creating all of this?
Yeah, you had people like Jack Williams and Mac McCutcheon try to pass bills that would have helped Mike out. How much more of that we got to stay? We had to call senators and say, the news media had to call senators and say, hey, this bill coming at you, it's a get-out-of-jail-free card from Mike Hubbard.
Might want to read it.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll file it again this time.
Yeah.
There's no question. But on top of that, another thing this does is it gives Mike Hubbard's team, now he personally can't get on the phone, but his little finance team in the background, Rob Riley, Jack Williams, and whoever else he puts on the team, to go around and get legal defense money from lobbyists and people saying, if you got this in the house, you better give up some money to sue Robert.
You brought up Jack Williams. Jack Williams went on the record this week and said that the only criminal activity that has occurred during this whole period of Hubbard's indictment has been that Matt Hart leaked grand jury testimony to the media. That is a
testimony.
There's nothing.
Did he forget about Sonny Reagan and the inside people that really leaked it?
Yeah.
And what the courts have ruled on it?
Interesting, I was talking to one of Hubbard's attorneys, and he was talking to me about, did you get some inside information? I said, I never got grand jury information, ever. I wouldn't take grand jury information.
It's illegal.
And you know what this attorney said to me? If I were in your business, I would take I said, then you're a crook.
Right.
It's not worth going to jail over.
Yeah.
It's going to be a full jail cell around here, and it's not going to be worth that company you'll be with.
Yeah. Hey, we got about a minute and a half to go through this. We found out, Beth, the special master in the Hubbard case said that even though the state had given the defense all the material they needed for discovery, they hadn't loaded it into any program. They've had the material since April of 2015. As of today, they still have not loaded into a program so they can read the discovery documents.
Right, and I asked a few criminal defense attorneys about this. I said, when you get discovery from prosecution, you know, is it normal to get just a huge data dump? And they said, mm-hmm. And I said, what do you do with it? He said, you read it, or you send it out and you have it indexed and you have it put in a searchable format, but you sit there and you go through it. And one attorney looked at me and he said, and they've had plenty of time to do that in the speaker's case. He knew exactly why I was asking.
I mean, who in the world gets information like that and sits on it for 9-10 months?
Well, you can read between the lines. They didn't have any intentions of ever going to trial or ever thinking they could just keep throwing hand grenades out there. So, I mean, it's egregious that they've had that for almost a solid year, have not loaded it up, and the legal team didn't look at it.
Well, I'll tell you another theory that I had over the weekend about this, and that is, what if in April, Hubbard was so in arrears with White as it was that that White told Hubbard, listen, either you pay for this or I'm not going to go out on a limb unless you pay me up.
It's over $100,000 to get that done. I mean, it's very,
and
very expensive.
why would a firm that's not getting paid take that out on a limb that they might not ever get that money?
But you hire a bunch of clerks at $10 an hour to sit there and sort through it.
You're adding logic to it again, Beth.
Well, I'm telling you, this is what real attorneys do.
I think Claire's may be right. Everybody may be right. They didn't ever think they were going to go to trial.
Yeah, and I hope that the judge looks at that. That is clearly not doing their legal job or him not paying his money. So, Mike, you better pay somebody to load it up.
All right, we're going to leave it right there. You've been watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next Sunday.